Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's workshop, Making a Living as a Writer. My name is Amanda St. Marie, and I sit on the board of directors for the new quarterly literary magazine. I am pleased to welcome you to our 10th annual Wild Writers Literary Festival, which is brought to you by Wordsworth Books, the Balsillie School of International Affairs, and the New Quarterly. Before we begin, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our festival donors and sponsors, including the Ontario Arts Council, the Knapp Wealth Management Team of RBC Dominion Securities, and Audi Kitchener-Waterloo. One thing to note before I introduce our guest is that the chat has been turned off for this event. If you have any questions, please enter them in the Q&A located at the bottom of your screen. I will be monitoring the Q&A window throughout the workshop and will save any questions for Doretta to answer at the end of her presentation. I am now pleased to introduce Doretta Lau. Doretta is the author of the short story collection, How Does a Single Blade of Grass Thank the Sun? The book was shortlisted for the City of Vancouver Book Award, longlisted for the Frank O'Connor International Short Story Award, and was named by The Atlantic as one of the best books of 2014. And now to begin the workshop, I will turn things over to Doretta.
Thank you so much, Amanda, and thank you to the Wild Writers Literary Festival, the New Quarterly, and for everyone for tuning in today. So I am going to be telling you today a bit about making a living as a writer. And essentially, I'm trying to boil down what is usually a course I teach over 13 weeks, preparation for career writing at UBC, down to 45 minutes. So essentially what I've done today is I am going to be really just like bringing across a philosophy with 5 major action points. And I'm going to be providing you with a spreadsheet, a worksheet, and the slides so that you can investigate further into areas that you're interested in, and also to just be able to do a lot of the activities on your own time. So if you wanted to take a moment to gather something to write with, a notebook, if that's something you want to do, there are a couple of activities that you may want to follow along. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm also going to, I think I can drop some links into the chat for resources for you to save. Okay, so, all right, I'm gonna take you into the screen. Okay, so I think you are going to now see my screen. And so before I start the slides, I just wanted to assure you that there is this spreadsheet, because as we go along, you might have a lot of questions about but how do I do that? Or I came here thinking that maybe I would learn how to find a literary agent or pitch magazines. And what you'll be able to do is I've created it so that you can have resources for just essentially all the how-tos of what I'm going to be talking about today, and just like covering things where it's like you'll be able to look into traditional publishing, self-publishing, just questions like how do you format a manuscript, and how do you find out more about branding and marketing? Like, what do you do for your author website? Like, what are those books that you keep talking about? And also just like, what are these grants and things? That's all in the spreadsheet. So know that that's all there. At the very end of this, you can ask me very specific questions about some of these things, but we're going to start with a philosophy. So there's also the worksheet, which you can do later, but I'm also going to be kind of saying some of the questions out loud during the presentation. So you're going to be able to follow along. Okay, so here we go. And again, this slide presentation is available in the spreadsheet. So if you don't want to take notes and you just want to kind of like hang out, sit back, and just take it all in, you don't have to worry, because you will be able to take this presentation away with you and to just like review on your own. So you don't have to take screenshots, the whole thing, it will be there for you. Okay, so making a living as a writer. So I just really wanted to start from a place where like, this is about you. So I wanted you to ask yourself, what are your biggest challenges? Because this is something that you might be thinking about, like how to make a living as a writer. So just ask yourself, like, what are your biggest challenges to making a living as a writer? I mean, for some of you, it might be time, you don't know where to start. It could be that, you know, you're years into your career and you don't feel like the money is coming, or you just don't have the right kind of space or the tools. So if you want to take this moment to write down some of these challenges, or to just acknowledge that they're on your mind, these things are very real. And I'm hoping that today we're going to be able to figure out some solutions to some of the challenges that you have in making a living as a writer. So just want to give you an overview what we're going to talk about today, so that you're not going to feel lost as we go through this process. Sorry, I'm just going to move some of this stuff down. Okay, so the agenda for today. Essentially, I want you to be able to think about things that you can control as a writer. I don't really want to cover, you know, gatekeepers and that sort of stuff, because, or prizes and things like that, because you have no control over that. And I want to give you things that you can do that will set you up for success, that are all within your control, things that, you know, you can take on, that you get to set goals for, and that you don't have to think about you know, someone else's judgment, someone else's decision-making. This is all your decision-making. And really, essentially, I'm hoping that when you walk away from this, you're going to be able to treat your writing like it's a business. Also, I'm going to tell you a bit about my experiences, and I'm going to really end with really actionable steps that you want to take for your career. So yeah, philosophy and then practical actions. And I think the other thing I really want you to take away from this is that marketing at its best is an act of generosity. I think a lot of us get programmed with this idea that marketing is a bad thing. And I'm here to kind of tell you essentially like how to reframe your thoughts around marketing, because marketing is so key to making a living as a writer. So just like marketing, generosity, let's kind of bring those concepts together. So after 45 minutes, there's going to be the Q&A. So if you have questions, you can drop it into that Q&A box and I will get into it. So you're probably wondering why you should trust me. So I'm going to do a quick overview so that you have a sense of the background that I have as a writer. And that way you can feel a little more comfortable about the advice I'm about to give you. Sorry, I'm just gonna, there we go, full screen. So I studied creative writing in English as an undergraduate, and I have an MFA in writing. And I started a career in journalism as an intern at a lifestyle and culture magazine called Dazed and Confused in London. And I've published internationally, and I've traveled around the world to do interviews and research. When I was living in New York, I worked in children's publishing as a production editor, and I worked as an editorial assistant for a literary journal called Noon. I lived in Hong Kong for 10 years, and I worked as a freelance art critic and a lifestyle writer. And after that, I was leading editorial teams at a weekly newspaper, a visual culture museum, and an art archive. And I really took the last job to take on digital projects because I really had this sense that digital was going to be so important to us as writers, and digital as in things that we control, and not digital as in social media. I will get to later on how you don't have to do any social media if it's something that you hate. On the writing side, I've published a collection of short stories, a poetry chapbook, and 4 nonfiction books for children. And I've finished a novel, and it's going on submission to publishers through my agent, Jan Nesbitt, in January. So I don't have the kind of big publisher experience yet, but it is hopefully coming. And at the moment, I teach fiction, nonfiction, and preparation for a career in writing at the University of British Columbia. And I have a business partner, and we have registered a company with the idea that the content we create can be used to build an entertainment empire. So essentially for me, I really like to think big and plan ahead, and I'm hoping to be able to kind of share with you how to do that for yourself. Okay, so for you, because this is about you, I want you to be clear about what you want. So just take a moment to ask yourself, and this is all going to be on the worksheet if you want to do it later, or if you want to do it now as you're thinking through the process. What is your biggest dream as a writer? And what do you most want to achieve? What do you want to give your fans? And what's the vision that you have for your career? Okay, so why does the vision for your career matter? Having that clarity on what you want to do as a writer, it makes it so much easier to make decisions on how you want to spend your time. That this way you will know when you want to say yes to something and you want to say no to something else, because a lot of times making those decisions takes up a lot of time, it takes up resources, and you want to be able to clear time to do the things that are most important to you, that eventually will put you on a path to making money doing what you want to do. So I just really want you to be able to think about this so that you can be closer to your goals and to a sustainable career. All right, so that is the general introduction to what we're doing today. And so we're going to now talk about gratitude. And you might be wondering, why are we talking about gratitude? But it'll start to make sense. I really connect it to this idea of branding, marketing, and community. So the philosophy, gratitude. Okay, so you're asking yourself, what does gratitude have to do with making a living as a writer? So I have a feeling that maybe for a lot of you that are attending today, you've heard a lot about networking and you have anxiety around the concept. And I just wanted to tell you that for your career, you don't have to network by going to parties or chasing after gatekeepers. The thing is, if you love parties, that's cool. But if you're shy or you're nervous, you don't have to worry. There's a lot of ways for you to engage and contribute in the community. And you can also really just build your community through expressing gratitude. So giving thanks. So one of the things that I really recommend doing as a way to maintain a connection within the community, and this is a way of kind of generating leads as a writer, is to give thanks. So I really recommend maintaining this practice of writing thank you notes and thank you emails, and to think of your work as an offering. I think sometimes it's just if we have these ideas about our work, if we're worried if people don't actually want it, I think it's just if you just really think that your work is something that you're offering the world, that other people find value in, it feels a lot better to create it, to give it, to charge for it. All of these things kind of come together. And it's such a key aspect to attaining and maintaining success. One of the things that I remember so clearly is there's a New Yorker profile by Lizzie Whitcomb, don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, about Taylor Swift. And this was right before Taylor Swift kind of crossovered from country to pop. And the thing that I remember most is in that she was writing thank you notes almost in every scene in my memory. And at the time, radio play was so important to a musician's career. So she was writing these thank you notes to every single radio station manager. And she had a spreadsheet where she kept track of, the names of all of the radio station managers, their partners, their children, the last thing they talked about, all this stuff. So she was able to create these really personalized thank you notes. And really, it's just it maintains that connection. And, it's just that kind of good feeling meant that, there'd be more of a likely possibility that the station manager might recommend to the DJs, play her music more often, that kind of thing. So it's just like generating that feeling of like, gratitude for someone, helping you along and supporting your career is very, very important and can lead to more things. Just like on a personal note, I'm very lucky, and it's just like I've gotten jobs because I've written a thank you note to someone, and just that day they needed to fill a spot on a roster. Or in the case of just like, awesome friends, it's just like I have a literary agent after being rejected by many literary agents because I was like friends with the person who sat next to me at work in Hong Kong. And when they moved to New York and they joined The Atlantic, they got 6 offers of representation on their first day as an editor and helped me out, passed my book along to my now current agent. So this is the thing, it's just like making those connections, giving thanks. It's really big for just creating that sense of community and connection. So how can you put this into action? I have this thing that I like to call the Gratitude 100. And this is like a very kind of like at home sort of like networking thing that you can do. That's really a way to say thank you. So what's the Gratitude 100? So if you're nearing the completion of a major project, whether it's a book, or screenplay, film, the thing that you're working on, sit down, make a list of 100 people outside of friends and family who have inspired your work. I mean, you obviously want to thank your friends and family, but this is a different project. So make this list. Think about the writers, the musicians, filmmakers, and other public figures whose work has inspired yours, and just add them to the list. And this is like anyone, like, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's just like the film Sorry to Bother You by Boots Riley is really major. So on my list for Gratitude 100, I would definitely put Boots Riley down as someone. What do you do after you've made your Gratitude 100? Okay, so you place these 100 names into a spreadsheet. You start collecting contact information. This might prove to be the biggest hurdle, but you're going to start to find appropriate contacts, such as agents or managers. And what you want to do is to write a note to tell them how pivotal that their work is to your work, and to thank them. And the thing is, it's just like we all have those people who've inspired us so much, and it'd be just amazing to thank them. And the thing is, it's just like once you've established this contact, there's a chance that later on you can reach out for collaborations or advice or help. And there's a chance that out of 100 people, only one person responds, but that's one more person who's rooting for you than before. And this person might be able to help you reach a new level in your career. So you get to create this feeling where it's just like at the close of a project, you get to say all these thank yous. And in thanking people, you just never know if there's an opportunity there. So you're generating community, you're generating leads. You just don't know where this is going to take you. And the thing is, it's just like, it's always nice to receive a thank you note. And of course, you're not going into this expecting something from anyone, but it's just nice to say thank you. And it's just something that you can have control over. That's a very genuine thing that you can do that allows you to create connections and engagement with people who made a difference to you, that like you probably want to meet at some point, and it's just worth doing. Okay. All right. So now bringing all this gratitude, going to bring it into branding and marketing. So I think like a lot of times, as writers, as people who make things that we think of as art, and that we don't necessarily think of as products, branding and marketing feels like super just like not something we want to do, that we might be uncomfortable with, that we might have associations with that are negative. And I just want to take you out of that mindset of it being something that is unpleasant, and just bring you into the mindset of branding and marketing, just being storytelling and an act of generosity. Okay, so I guess like we can just kind of get over what marketing is not. So marketing is definitely not begging people to buy your book. Like that's a no. Marketing also isn't trying to trick anyone into spending money. Just before we got on this presentation, we we're just having a chat backstage at just like Instagram and like trickery with marketing and taking people's money. So marketing, in the case of what I'm trying to explain to you, is not about tricking anyone into spending money. It's about just like, offering something of real value. So what is marketing in the definition that I'm trying to bring across to you today? It's thinking about what your audience wants and meeting those needs. And it's about making connections with people who love your work. So, just take a moment to ask yourself, when it comes to your work, what do you have to offer? And also ask yourself, how can you bring joy into other people's lives? So just kind of take a moment, think about your work, think about what you have to offer, think about kind of just like the wonderfulness, that like great feeling that you can bring to other people. So with that in mind, I think like in order to think about the kind of marketing you do is you have to think about your branding as a writer. Okay, so what is branding? So branding is the story you tell about yourself and your work. And really, as a writer, you're a storyteller. So what you can do is you apply your talents to the way you talk about your work as a writer. It's just like, you write beautifully in your creative work, bring that same big energy to talking about yourself and your work. And I'm not saying to talk about yourself in a weird third person narcissistic way. I'm really saying people are going to wonder what you're going to bring to their life, the kind of impact that you might have. And if you just like focus on that, like, what is it that's special about your work, that you're the only person who can do your work and, bring it to people? Like, think about that, because I think like you have to acknowledge the fact that you're the only person on earth who has the ability to tell stories the way that you can. And so that is like so special. And so much of the time we're thinking, when it comes to fitting into ideas of genre and things like that, that we have to kind of narrow ourselves. And I'm asking you to be expansive and to think about your own very special qualities. And that you have so much to offer, and that out there's people who need your story. And that's why you keep writing, and that's why you have to make these connections to make your brand clear, to want to do this marketing work, because you want to create those connections, to create that engagement, because your work is so important. And you just never know that. I mean, I don't want to be grandiose, but like your work could possibly save someone's life. So if you're thinking about this, like in a kind of like, we're not like ER, like surgeons, but like spiritually, we have a chance to uplift people. And so think about, the kind of work that you do and how, it matters. And you want to be able to communicate that. So really, it's just like your brand is what you have to offer other people. And because of that, it's just like the brand doesn't center you. The brand centers the kind of experience you will give a reader. So for those of you who have discomfort around the idea of branding or marketing because you feel that you're at the center of it, or that you're making it all about you, it is never about you. It is always about the reader. So you might find some comfort in the idea that you are setting yourself up to give someone an experience that is very important to them. And I think like with that in mind, it's so much easier to think about branding, so much easier to think about marketing, and it's so much easier to think about your audience, your reader. What is this person like? Like what about your work appeals to them, to just like have those thoughts when the work is done. Okay, so I'm really just trying to like boil down essentially what I usually do over 13 weeks into this amount of time. So it might feel a little jumpy, but I wanted to be able to kind of bring together how, this gratitude, how branding and marketing comes back to your work, into some action points that you can undertake. So I wanted to give you practical things that you can do to set yourself up for success, so that when you're out there searching for opportunities, once your work is done, that you're so ready for that next level of success. Okay, so these action points. So again, like this is back to you taking control. And these are like 5 things that I think are so valuable for you to do to take control over your career. Sorry, just moving things around here. Okay, so the 5 things. You can, 1, write down 10 next actions that you can take to move your career forward. 2, write and edit your personal bio. 3, update your writing CV. 4, create an author website. And 5, plan a newsletter. I'm going to go a little deeper into what each of these things entails, because these are the 5 things that I'm saying that you can do from today onwards that will help you make a living as a writer. And you might not immediately see money, but I'm saying that like this can just increase exponentially for you. Okay, so those 10 actions. And I think like a lot of times it's just like if we're feeling a bit stalled in our career, I'm not talking about 10 huge actions. I'm not saying like in the next 6 months, I want you to write like 4 novels. I'm saying that in the next 6 months, you can look at 10 small actions that can move your career forward. This might be, if you're Canadian, registering for a GST number. This allows you to charge taxes on goods and services. And it means that you're ready that if you made $30,000 from writing, you would have to charge GST anyways. So why not imagine that you're going to make that $30,000 and register for that GST number, so you're ready to charge people those taxes and to pay those taxes and to be able to like write a bunch of things off. Like that may be something you want to do in your 10 actions. And it only takes calling up, I can't believe, Canadian Revenue Agency. I believe that's what they're called now. But that could just be the robocalls. But the tax people in Canada, they will set you up with a business registration number and a GST number. You might want to research literary agents. You might want to read about self-publishing. I am a big proponent of self-publishing. Not all work that we do is necessarily something that we want to go through a traditional publishing route. And I have more information about that in the spreadsheet. But I think it's just like for a certain kind of writer, self-publishing might make you, 6 times the amount of money you would through traditional publishing. So I'm here to say self-publishing is great. I am considering doing a hybrid model for myself where there are some things that I would like to self-publish, which, for a lot of people that I have come up with in the writing community, some of them find it a little bit horrifying because, well, my genre is literary and people say things like, but like, then you might not be able to win prizes or that sort of thing. But like, I have no control over winning prizes, but I have control over putting out a book that maybe no one wants to publish, and publishing myself because I believe in it and my readers believe in it. But that's like a big side note. So I'm going to bring this back into the 10 actions. You might want to read a craft book because we can always improve as writers. Or you might want to reach out to old friends, different from the Gratitude 100, but like maintaining friendships and just checking in on people. Also really healthy for just like building community and just like creating just like that network of people that's like will help you grow in your career, and you will help them grow in their career. You might want to think about your overall vision for your career or the major milestones that you want to hit over the next 5 years, but 10 actions. Just like on an aside of like making money is one point that Jade Friedman makes in the book, The Business of Being a Writer, is she asks, what can you sell for $1? What can you sell for $5? What can you sell for 10? So I've put her book into the book list that's in the spreadsheet link that I shared earlier, and I'll share the link again later, just in case some of you logged on a bit later and didn't see the link, so that you don't miss out on that. But I also have a link to something called Smart Passive Income blog, which has a lot of resources for creating passive income. This is also another side, but essentially, there's the time that we can do labor, and then there's things that we can do where once we do the action the first time, we can start passively collecting money off of it, and that's where you make way more money. The one thing my dad taught me was to try to avoid doing a labor intensive business. So creating a passive income business, thinking about things that you can sell for $1, $5, $10 on your own website. This is a way that you can start thinking about ways to make money that does not involve gatekeepers. All right, point 2, the bio. Sorry, just do a little quick time check. So the bio. So in a single document, write a bio for yourself, make it messy. You can make it 200 words, just really go for it. Be expansive, contain every single thing that you've ever thought about yourself, your work, your achievements, the whole thing, put it all down. From here, take those 200 words, edit it down to a 15-word bio, a 25-word bio, a 50-word bio, 75-word bio, and a 100-word long bio. I recommend that the bio not just read like a CV unless you're a #1 New York Times bestselling author. Like one of the funniest bios I've read is Richard Osman's bio for a book called The Man Who Died Twice. But he's a best-selling writer, and he fit one resume thing and a joke and like one other point into his bio. But like, for those of us who haven't sold 1 million books, we want to create reader expectations. So you want to show the reader what they can expect of your work. And for say like the 15-word bio, it's just like try to shove in your website, all the bio links, get your website link into there. So my short bio, which I worked on for a very long time because I sometimes really just have trouble doing my own branding and marketing. But my short bio is Doretta Lau started watching horror movies at age 9 and sketch comedy at 11. After that, there was nothing to do but become a writer. So for you, if you do not know anything about my work and you have not read it, you have an idea of the kind of fiction that I might produce, and that maybe you might be interested in it, or maybe you're not interested in it. But for me, it's like I then reach out to you as an audience member who might be interested in my work, or if not at all, it's just like you save your time and you will find someone else's work who you enjoy. So, and I didn't put my website in there because my website is currently under construction. So I'm going to be giving you a whole bunch of advice today. And if you ever checked my website, you're going to be like, but she has not done any of these things for herself. But I am in an overhaul period. So don't do what I do, do as I say. So why do you want, I'm asking you to do this bio exercise. So why have bios ready? So you might want to use bios in cover letters where you're pitching your work. You can just copy and paste, or you can create a template. And so I said like different length bios, but you might have like bios that are institutional bios that are for very, very like things like applying for things where they really want the CV. And then there's also the bios for when you're kind of create like marketing interest. You also might need to send over a bio if an editor requests one because something of yours got picked up for publication. The bio, like I said, allows a reader to get to know you and decide whether or not your work is something they want to read. If you're invited to an event and organizer asks for a bio, you can send it. And this is the thing, like, I know that like, it's like there are some festival organizers or reading organizers who have said, you know, I've invited someone, like they've been very excited to join. And, you know, I spend a month chasing after them for their bio. So now if you have your bios ready at whatever length they ask for, you're not going to be that writer where they say, ah, so-and-so, you know, took a month to send in a bio. It's like, nope, you got asked, you were ready, and you sent it off. So get that bio ready. All right, so CV. The writing CV. So your writing CV is different from a regular resume. It lists your publications, awards, achievements, and any related training and community contributions. It tells a story of your writing career. And I linked in the spreadsheet to instructions on how to format the CV, what to include in it. So you can deep dive into that on your own time. And that is there for you. So why do you want a writing CV ready? So a lot of grants, residencies, and teaching opportunities often ask for a CV as your part of your application. So if your CV is completed, that's one less thing you have to worry about when you see an opportunity you wish to apply for. And to just like kind of like tell you like a personal thing of like, I had all these things ready. So it's just like I had all this stuff ready. And I think like 2 years ago, I thought that the Canada Council grant deadline was on October 21st. But then on October 7th, I was on Twitter and everyone was freaking out about their Canada Council grant. And I was like, wow, everyone's so prepared. They're 2 weeks early. And then I double checked the deadline and I realized that the application was due that day. But because I already had the CV and all these things ready, I was able to just go pull all this stuff and drop it into the application and get it off. So it's just like, I mean, it's like those like sports analogies when they say like, you don't have to get ready when you stay ready. This is the writer equivalent of like, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. Okay, so 2 more points. I have 5 minutes left before the last 3 slides I want to do. So your author website. Okay, so I was selling to you that if you don't like social media, like this was the presentation for you, and you have to have an author website. And for the reason why the author website is so important is you build it for yourself. So you're putting in labor and you're the person who reaps all the benefits of the labor. When you go to social media like Facebook, like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff, it's a thing called digital sharecropping. The concept is explained deeply in the spreadsheet, but like in digital sharecropping, you are making billionaires in Silicon Valley richer. But if you maintain your own author website, the value is something that you create for yourself. I have like a list of things you can do for your author website, also in the spreadsheet. And mainly the website should have a section about you, information about your books, especially where to buy them, events, a way to contact you or your agent or your publicity. I highly suggest that there's a way to sign up for your newsletter and a section for news or a blog. I'm partial to a blog for marketing reasons, because like I said earlier, your brand is a way of telling a story. And if you have a blog, you get to continuously tell a story about yourself and your work, and you're not letting other journalists tell the story about who you are and what your work is. And newsletter. Okay, so it's just like, I'm not saying you have to do a newsletter this moment, but newsletter is something that you can plan for. And it's a way for someone who's a huge fan of your work to hear from you directly. And a newsletter isn't fleeting the way it is if you post on social media. A fan can keep an email until they have time to enjoy it. So like right now in my inbox, you know, I have some newsletters from Jane Friedman, author of The Business of Being a Writer, that I am hoping to enjoy later on in the term. And it's there for me when I need it. And the newsletter really isn't just to sell products, but to offer value to your fans and to make that connection. And really, it's just like the power of the newsletter can be seen in that there's people who have been like canceled essentially, who still have careers. Like if you are wondering why Louis C.K. is still able to tour as a comedian after everything that went down, it's because he has a newsletter and he sells directly to his fans who get the email and buy those tickets to a show or buy a comedy special. Again, with a newsletter, don't use Substack because that's digital sharecropping. That's like, it's just like, you don't get to keep those emails and you're not compliant with all the like governing bodies that have to do with like what you can do with newsletter data collection, all that stuff. So like, don't use Substack because again, you're making other people rich. And like, I want you to be rich and not a bunch of Tesla driving dudes rich. Okay, so sorry, coming up to the final 2 slides at 3 minutes. Opportunities. So the chances are you came today and you were just like, I was really hoping to hear from you exact ways to make money. And on the spreadsheet, I listed ways to contact literary agents to pitch magazines. If you're Canadian, I listed grants and government programs and just like ways of generating passive income. But really, I thought it was important today that I wanted to give you a philosophy to work from and to make you think about your own career vision, and to just like think about a few tasks that like will be huge for your career, that will set you up for success, to be able to like make money, to be able to be ready for big moments, because once things start snowballing, it gets really hard to do some of the fundamental things. So I just wanted to make the search go easier before you actually go hunting. And so winding down before your questions, this is my final thought. Hire an accountant to do your taxes. Like really, this saves an enormous amount of money in the long run. So if you're really treating your writing career as a business, you have to hire an accountant. So for me personally, I keep a spreadsheet and I track my receipts weekly so that my accountant doesn't charge me to wade through piles of receipts. And my accountant charges me $250 to do my taxes, and has saved me so much money. I can't even express to you the amount of money I have saved over time because of this yearly expense that then I can write off on next year's taxes. So I'm going to move on to the Q&A. But essentially, if in the next 15 minutes I can't get to your question, ask me on Twitter. I'm happy to send that out to you. I'm going to now stop the share. And I'm going to paste in those links again. So again, if you joined us a bit later in the conversation, there's a link to a spreadsheet that has a link to the presentation. So all the slides are there, a whole bunch of resources, and then I have a link to a worksheet for some of those philosophical questions I was hoping that you could answer for yourself. You can do it like on your own time. Maybe you want to like light a candle, drink a cup of coffee one morning, and just do that for yourself. So thank you, everyone. Now, Q&A. Okay. All right. So question from Megan Beadle. What about Canadian writing grants? Is the time and effort worth it? Okay, so yes, Megan, the time and effort is definitely worth it. So in the spreadsheet, in the section that I believe is called grants, and I've like lost the thing. I think, hang on, sorry. It's called grants and payments. I've linked to the Canada Council for the Arts, that they have a grant. The main one I can think of is called, I think, Explore and Create. That's for the process of putting together a book and doing the writing. Also, Access Copyright Foundation has a research grant. And essentially, the way to go after grants is a lot of times they hope that you have a bit of a track record in publishing, specifically if you're writing fiction, in literary journals, and a lot of literary journals that are like, rank high in, when it comes to grant people assessing the situation, is, publications such as the New Quarterly. So think about those university affiliated journals, and there's other really great journals out there. And a way to also think about places where you can place your stories is if you particularly love a collection of short stories, go to the acknowledgements or the copyright page, and you can have a look at some of the places that those stories were published before and look at that as avenues of publication, because chances are if you love that person's writing, your work might be similar to theirs, and they've done the work of curating places to publish for you. Okay. So next question, Megan. And if we do genre and literary fiction, is it better to separate everything, social media, branding, marketing, or is stigma less these days and we're allowed to incorporate both in one? How would you handle this? Okay, so I guess it really depends on the kind of brand you decide to create as a writer. And if you decide to create an expansive brand that's not tied to the idea of genre, say, your brand really is about, like, say, imagination and curiosity. If that kind of like runs through the thematic concerns in your genre fiction and your literary fiction, it's just like, you can keep it under one name. So like, have a look at all your work. It's an exercise that's in the business of being a writer. That's you kind of assess everything that you've ever written, write down, make the list out what the thematic concerns are. You'll start seeing thematic connections. And if you can see thematic connections that connect through the genre fiction, through the literary fiction, you can create that under one author brand. But if you find that maybe the thematic concerns are very, very different, it might be easier to create two separate brands for that. And that might be really helpful. For example, I don't know if you're familiar with the work of a literary thriller writer named Riley Sager. For the longest time, it was unclear who Riley Sager was. There was no photographs. And what had happened was Riley Sager had had a previous life as a more, I think, possibly like literary writer. And while he had critical success, the numbers weren't so high. And so when he rebranded as Riley Sager, he wanted to make it seem like it was from a woman's point of view, and it was like a brand new fresh writer, and now has like a whole other new career as like a best-selling writer of thrillers under this brand umbrella. So I hope that helps with your thinking about how to handle that. Okay. Oh, anonymous attendee. I'm curious if you ended up receiving the grant that you applied for at the last minute. I did, which is why I am such a big believer in like keeping all these things ready, because I was able to just like pull all these things that I had prepped ahead of time, and been able to do that. Okay, so question, anonymous attendee. What do you recommend for a person who is nearing the end of a non-writing career and wants to launch into a second career in writing? The writing CV looks pretty dismal for a newbie who's dabbled in writing groups and has not yet published or achieved a relevant CV yet. Should the focus be on submitting pieces to literary journals? Yeah, I think like, so depending on the kind of career you want. So this goes back to like the vision you have for your career. If you're really just like thinking of like that literary career, really focus in on submitting to those literary journals. But also the thing is like, sometimes with the CV, when I say to just like writers in class, people don't kind of capture everything that they've ever done. And it's kind of important to do that CV, because like some of the things that you don't think are important might be important. So it's just important to start listing some of the things. You might discover that you've actually done an enormous amount of community engagement, and that counts, because, really like seeing people who are really involved and hope that, your careers go well. So yes, so the number one focus probably to be get the bios together, write the work. I think like, I think that's the key thing I forgot to say in all this is like, you have to make the content in order to put into motion all the things I talked about. So like write the work, get it out to the journals, and then that helps you populate your CV. And I hope that helps. Okay, Lucia, what's your advice on the kind of day jobs that can support a writing career, i.e. teaching? Okay, so this is like a really great question because like for years I had a job in journalism, and the years when I did my job in journalism, I like didn't really write for myself because I used so much of my brain and just like writing physically, just like into journalism. Like there were days where it's like, I want to write 7 journalism pieces and like no fiction. So it's like, if you're able to separate those things, that's important. I think too, it's just like, I really thought of jobs as like something that like gives you something to write about, like it makes your world expansive. So if there's opportunities to like pursue something that has nothing to do with the kind of writing you want to do, in some ways it's just like, it means that your world is bigger and it gives you a bigger perspective. Like I sometimes joke that my museum job, I worked at a visual culture museum that's opening in like 1 week in Hong Kong. I was joking that it was like an embed project. Like as a journalist, I was like dropping in and like seeing how the sausage was made. And essentially my novel is based on my time working in a museum, except for I turned it into a theme park and just essentially took the bureaucracy. Anyhow, I am digressing, but teaching is really great. I think like for me, I really force myself to write in the morning a few days a week when I am teaching, because I don't want my students to be the only ones who have to work and write. I think it's just like, if I'm going to show them that it's possible, that like, you know, as a teacher of writing, I have to show up too. And I just kind of set those 15-minute goals. I'm kind of doing my own fake National Novel Writing Month right now, where I'm just doing 500 words a day. But I think like any day job can be supportive if you can make sure that you can leave your work at work and that you can manage your energy and make time for writing either at the very beginning of the day, or that like when everyone's asleep at night, you're able to do it for you. I hope that helps. Okay, anonymous attendee, have you thought about teaching a longer course on this topic for a general public outside of university? I would take it. Yeah, I've thought about it, like, because it's just like, after putting together all this stuff, trying to boil down what I try to teach over a 13-week period, where like over those 13 weeks, it's a 27-hour window of me answering questions about how to make a living. I have thought about it. So I guess like, it's just like, follow me on social media. I'm working on my newsletter, and I will make the course available when it's available. And hopefully it will make it quite inexpensive, because I really just like want this information out there. Okay, Juliana Soderman. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, but your question is, what are your thoughts on getting an MFA or other degree in creative writing? Does it generally help or hinder you from being able to make a living as a writer? Okay, so I would like you not to make the mistake I made, which was that I didn't know that there were fully funded MFA programs. And I just had a fantasy of living in New York. So essentially, I probably could have owned a house in Kansas with the loan money and the full-time work and all the ridiculous stuff that I did to get my MFA. So if you are interested in an MFA and you're interested in doing like a very specific kind of like literary writing, it's just like, it can be helpful, but really look for those programs that have full funding, because full funding is important. And I should probably make part of the spreadsheet about like MFA programs and full funding. So I'm going to maybe like update it. So check back there. But yeah, like for me, like I loved doing the MFA. It, you know, changed my world. But yeah, it takes a while to pay off. So definitely full funding programs, and ask yourself, you know, is this going to be something for you personally that you want to do? Because if it's not, then like the MFA is not for you. It's like, you can write a book on your own. I know you can. And if you just like create that time and space for yourself, it's just like, you can do that without the MFA. So I'm only pro MFA if you are pro MFA for yourself. Can I recommend resources on creating author CV? Yeah, so in the resources section, there's a thing from, I think, the Scottish Writers Trust, and it kind of lays out what you need for your author CV. Okay, anonymous attendee. I'm sorry if I'm like going very fast, but I just hope to answer all the questions. What are your thoughts on including writing samples on a writer's website? Yeah, I think like definitely include it. So this is the thing, like, so the way like websites have a thing called search engine optimization, or not websites have, that you can optimize your website so that search engines like find you. So the more content you have, it's like the more likely it can drive traffic to your website because it's a high value website. So if there's a short story that you're willing to put up on your website that you're not thinking that you want to publish elsewhere, I think that's totally fine. Like for me personally, I've written a story that's set in the world of my novel that I'm going to be giving away for free. And I'm trying to decide if I'm going to put it on the website directly or make it part of newsletter. But again, you're really like nailing the whole like marketing as an act of generosity. It's a gift you're giving to your writers. So like, this is definitely something to think about. And like, that's like an awesome kind of like thought around the process. Okay, question from Emily Gibson. What would you recommend as a next step for someone who is graduating from undergraduate degree in English and creative writing and wants to pursue their next step in writing? Okay, so at the beginning of this process, I, said, like, what's the vision you have for your career? So I think like once you like have broken down what your vision is, like say, you want to be a novelist. Like, it's just like, I think that next step is like, it's like setting out that time to write a novel. And I think like, I'm going to put in some structure tips into the spreadsheet, which I didn't do, which like, I think like a lot of time people have trouble finishing novels because they don't have a structure. And there's this book called Superstructure by James Scott Bell, which I need to put into the spreadsheet. And I feel like it's just like, it's like, if it's a novel you want to write, it's just like, you just like outline the whole thing, make that time for yourself. Also, I think like it's good to, keep in touch with your creative writing classmates, try to have writing groups with them, try to have reading groups with them. I think reading is such an integral part of what it means to be a writer, and to maintain that community and to just think about what your goals are and to just like kind of figure out like what steps you can take and pursue those goals. I hope that helps answer your question. I realize that we're down to a minute, and I am going to try to answer any advice on using journalism background to break into literary writing. I think it's just like, it shows that you're a person who can really adhere to a deadline. So for years, my website actually said that I was a journalism person who had a background in journalism. So it's just like, I think it's just like, that really just like is a way to market yourself as a person who goes and talks to people or does research, and kind of creates this idea that you have an expansive expertise that you can bring into your literary writing. Okay, one final question from Rhonda. What are your thoughts on taking work you can't sell and posting on Medium? So again, like, it's like sometimes I've posted stuff on Medium, like cross-posted on Medium and my own blog, but Medium is digital sharecropping. So it's just like, if you're going to do that, I would recommend having your own author website, posting on your own blog, and using Medium to link back to your author website. So again, it drives that SEO engagement. So you're making the search engine know your name, know your work. So when people Google that subject, they might find your piece. So use Medium to drive traffic to your own author website. Okay. So we're past the 5 o'clock, or I guess like over 8 o'clock. I'm going to stop. Thank you so much for all those amazing questions.
Yes, thank you. I know we're going a little bit over here, but I didn't want to shortchange anyone, so to speak, on some of these really great questions that were coming in throughout your presentation, Doretta. So thank you so much for taking some extra time to get through all of those. I just wanted to thank you for this workshop. I really enjoyed the interactive component of this workshop and your thought-provoking questions. Lots of great tips and resources for aspiring writers. You did a great job distilling this 13-week course down to a 45-minute workshop. I'm seriously so impressed. In closing, I want to remind our viewers that Doretta's book is available for purchase online from Wordsworth Books. Visit our online book table. I've just linked it in the chat for a handy overview of all festival authors' books. And don't forget, the next Wild Writers Literary Festival event is tomorrow. It's Writing with Style, and it's tomorrow at 7 p.m. I just want to thank everyone for attending tonight's workshop and for asking really great questions. And as Doretta stated, you could connect with her on social media. And it sounds like there's lots to look forward to from you in the next year. So that's really great.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.